All right, today's topic, geometric sequences. So a lot like arithmetic sequences, but now instead of adding and subtracting like arithmetic sequences, you probably guessed it, we're going to multiply or divide by the same number again to get the next number. All right. So you multiply or divide to get the next number in the sequence. Okay, so we have to decide right away, determine whether it's a geometric sequence or not. So again, these are your notes. I'm going from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8. Looking for a multiplying or dividing that gets me from one to the other. Timesing by 2, multiplying by 2. Yep, so yes, this is a geometric sequence because it's consistent. My common ratio now, instead of called common difference, it's called a common ratio, is multiplying by 2. It's practically the same thing. Common difference is arithmetic, common ratio is geometric. Okay, so yes, times 2. Again, just like when we did arithmetic, I will ask for a 1. So the first number of that sequence, what's the first number in this sequence? Right here, number 1. A 0. I do want you to find a 0. Remember, that's the starting point. So 1 before the first term. So where would you start? If I went back, if this way I'm multiplying by 2, how do I get back? I have to divide by 2. So I'm going to take 1 divided by 2. And yes, you can leave it as a fraction. You do not need to make that harder on yourself than it is. So you can leave it as 1/2. Everyone always says, would you count it wrong if I said 0.5? Nope, I wouldn't, but don't make it harder, okay? It's going to be a lot easier to just leave it alone for the most part. Unless they already give it to you in decimals, then that's when you'd want to do it. Okay, so again, real quick, from 4 to 12, 12 to 36. That looks like we're multiplying by 3 every time. Yep, it's consistent, so yes. My common ratio is times 3. There's my first two answers. I need a 1, first number in the sequence. What's first number? 4. A 0, what would be the 1 right before it? So if I'm multiplying by 3 this way, I have to divide by 3. So I have to take 4 divided by 3. You can leave it as an improper fraction. That is totally fine. 4/3 is good to go. Okay, moving on. Now, find the first 4 terms of the sequence and then the stated one, okay? So again, just like in arithmetic, if I want to find the first term, that's a 1. Wherever I see an n, I'm going to put in a 1. So I have 3 times 6. Instead of n, it's now 1 minus 1. Well, I have to figure out what 1 minus 1 is. Well, that is 0. Anything to the 0 power, because we have to do exponents first, order of operations, anything to 0 power is 1. So this would be just 3 times 1, which is 3. So my first term is a 3. Now if you actually look back, where did they come up with that first term? They actually gave it to you in their formula. So it's right there. Now I'm going to do A2, but you're going to see that there's a pattern here and you're going to figure it out. A2, wherever there is an n, you're going to put in a 2. So 3 times 6 to the 2 minus 1. Well, 2 minus 1 is 1. So 3 times 6 to the 1. Well, 6 to the 1 is still 6. 3 times 6 is 18. There's my second term. Okay, how to get from 3 to 18? You multiplied by 6 right here. It showed you your common ratio. Okay, so now we're just multiplying by 6. So take 18 times 6 in your calculator. These are going to get really big really fast because it is geometric, or really small really fast. That's just how geometric works, because you're either multiplying or dividing to get the next number. So we have 108 and 648. Okay. Now we also have to find A5. I always suggest plugging it in. So A5. So put a 5 in wherever you see a n. So 3 times 6 to the 5 minus 1. 5 minus 1 is 4. Now you're taking 6 to the 4th power. This is where it gets tricky. If this number was negative, you'd need to make sure that it's in the parentheses the correct way. So you'd actually throw in your parentheses, but in case We're going to even just do it with the regular number so that way we get used to it. So you have your parentheses around your 6. Raise it to, remember exponent right here. Raise it to whatever power it was, so that'd be 4. Press enter. Then you're going to multiply by that 3 on the outside. So times in by 3. So 3,888. Okay, we'll do another one. Why don't we skip down to 8, just so that way we get a negative example in there for you, okay? Well, if we look back here, we actually don't have to go through all the work of putting 1 in, because we figured out that the first term, when they give us this formula, is right here. So my first term is a 3. Okay, now my common ratio I was multiplying by was right here, that's 6. So in this case, it's going to be -3. So 3 times -3 is going to give me a -9. Then take that times -3, going to be +27. Then that times -3, -81. So the first 4 terms are actually quite easy to find in these. Now, a of 5. A of 5. So wherever we see an n, we're going to put in a 5. So 3 times. Now remember that -3 needs to be in parentheses. That's super important, okay? -3 to the 5 minus 1. 5 minus 1 is 4. Okay, so look at my calculator. In parentheses, -3. Close your parentheses. Raise it to the 4. Press enter. It's 81. Now I got to multiply that by this number out in front, which was 3 in this case, so 243. If you did not put that in parentheses, if you just did -3 to the power of 4, look what happened. It's a -81. That's not the same answer that you're going to get here when you times it by 3. You get a -243, so it's not going to give you the right answer. I also tell my students, okay, if this is the first term, positive, second term negative, third term positive. Okay, think about it logically. So all my odd numbers are positive answers. This is an odd number, it's a positive answer. So you kind of have to make that connection. Okay, now we're going to move on to the bottom. So exciting. First term is given and the common ratio is given. So remember, common ratio is what it's constantly going up by. Remember, common ratio means we're in a geometric series, so that means we're multiplying to get to the next number. So then we want also the formula. We're not going to do explicit formula, we're going to do just formula in general, one that I think works best for everybody. So we're going to use that formula. First term, A1, it's already given to us, 3.7. Now if my common ratio is a 3, that means that I'm going to multiply by 3 every time. So I got to take that 3.7 times 3, 11.1. 11.1 times 3, 11.1 times 3, so that'd be 33.3. Remember, they're going to get really big really fast. That times 3, 99.9. That's the first 4 terms. Okay? Now write the equation. The general form for the equation, I'm going to put it down at the bottom. Y equals, okay? Arithmetic was y equals mx plus b. This is a little bit different because this is geometric. Y equals a sub 0, so remember that's our starting point, times my common ratio, so I'm going to put r, to the n, and n is the number in the sequence, okay? So label these things. Starting, nope, not, well, starting slash 0 term. Remember, that's a different starting term, the 0 term, the one right before number 1. R, common ratio, remember the what you always go up by, and n is the number in the sequence. So if I'm looking for the 5th number in the sequence, you put the 5 here. If you're looking for the 10th, put the 10 here. Okay? So here's our general formula. So y equals, I need to figure what A0 is in this case. This is given to me in decimals, so yes, it's okay to answer in decimals. I need to find what A0 is. I don't know that. This is the first term. I need the 0 term, one right before it. I multiplied by 3 to get the next term, so I have to divide by 3. I have to take that 3.7 and divide it by 3 in my calculator. I'm going to round. It's 1.23. It's 1.23 repeating, but we're just going to round. Okay? That's going to go in for a 0. So 1.23 times my common ratio. What did I constantly multiply by? 3. Wonderful. Now my exponent is going to be an n. Okay, could it be an x? Yes, it doesn't matter what letter you use. I use n because the number in the sequence. I think that makes sense. There's my general formula. Let's try one more. Why not? First term in the sequence, they give it to you. They give A1, 2.2. Next, my common ratio is 3, so I need to multiply by 3 because we're in geometric now. So 2.2 times 3 is 6.6. That times 3, 19.8. That times 3, 59.4. Okay, remember they get really big really fast, really small really fast. Now, general formula, y equals, I need a sub 0. I don't know what that 0 is. If I multiply by 3 this way, I gotta divide by 3. Take 2.2 divided by 3. Yes, it's gonna be a decimal. Yes, we're gonna have to round. 0.73. It's 0.73 repeating, but that's okay. 0.73 times my common ratio. What did I constantly multiply by? 3. Good, raised to the n. That is the geometric notes. If you have any questions, let me know.